Hey guys, just wanted to do my spoiler review for basically my spoiler review for Black Panther, the latest Marvel movie starring Chadwick Boseman as the title character and co-starring Michael B. Jordan, Forrest Whitaker, Lupita Nyong'o, Daniel Kaluuya from Get Out, Martin Freeman, as well as Angela Bassett, Andy Serkis, and Dana Gurira from The Walking Dead. And the movie takes place like right after like it's supposed to take place a week after the events of Captain America: Civil War, and T'Challa is about to be crowned king, is about to take on the mantle of king after his father's assassination, and they have this one character, and it turns out, and they have Wakanda as basically because of the vibranium, immediately that contains the vibranium that landed in their country. It led to this country being like completely prosperous and becoming actually the most technologically advanced planet in the world. But they wanted, and also the meteor also affected a special herb that anybody who takes on the mantle of King Wakanda is given the powers of what they call the Black Panther, which gives them enhanced abilities. Not on not unlike the same effects the Super Soldier Serum had on both Bucky Barnes and Steve Rogers. And I mean, it has like a lot of interesting concepts about isolationism and nationalism and whether or not to whether stay stay isolated or whether it's their and like whether it's the country's responsibility to help others or get involved in, reach out to refugees and whatnot, or to worry about look out for their own. And it's not a completely perfect place because there's like some like unrest where you have like this one tribe led by Mabaku who does challenge T'Challa for the throne, and and it's usually kind of like part of this ritual where T'Challa is like stripped of his powers so he can fight any of his opponents on an even playing field, and but he also chooses to spare Mabaku, which comes into play later, and but you also find out about Eric Stevens, nicknamed Killmonger, who wants to um, challenge challenge T'Challa for the throne, is in league with Ulysses Claw, who is basically an arms dealer, and who was last who I made. He's played by Andy Serkis. He had a cameo in um, Avengers: Age of Ultron, who sold the vibranium to the title to the titular villain, and you can tell that he's having a ball. He's having a ball in this role, and something that's not known. I think that was like kind of unmentioned is that he actually does have like a personal history with a bad history with the people of Wakanda, because like he had his ancestor. I guess like one of his ancestors was like murdered by the Wakandians, and it's also part of the reason why he stole the vibranium and caused an explosion to cover his escape, and basically and how he gained it basically how it was like the start of his business, how he became an arms dealer and is like profiting off the vibranium, even to the point where he's trying to steal. He was even assisted by T'Challa's uncle, who was working as a spy, stayed in Oakland, and it turned and he was played by Sterling K. Brown of This Is Us fame, and he was actually trying to sell the vibranium and sell the weapons to all the spies and spies and I guess those black revolutionaries in order to help them come to power and fight against like all the oppression that and all the oppression and hardships, and there's a lot of the typical crap that a lot of black people, especially a lot of black people, to go through outside of have to go through, especially outside of Wakanda, and in universe and just in real life. And he thought it was wrong that that they kept all this that Wakanda kept all this technology and knowledge to themselves. And apparently Zuri, who was like a priest and played by and his present day version is played by Forrest Whitaker, but was also a spy there sent by T'Chaka to figure out if the brother was a traitor. It turns out to be the case, and when basically T'Chaka's brother tried to attack him in Zuri in anger, that T'Chaka was forced to kill him in self-defense. But he also made the mistake of he knew that his brother had fathered a child and became assimilated with American culture, and he chose to leave a child behind, which it turns out predictably was Eric Stevens Killmonger, who did grow up and now not only traumatized by the death, but also resenting Wakanda for what they were doing, for basically just being abandoned. And he was basically forced to defend himself in like Oakland, and just seeing like all the hardships that black people have to go through, the violence, the racism, the prejudice, and whatnot. And now and he grew up to become this like ruthless like American black ops soldier who basically has been planning for like 20 something years to take the throne and overthrow T'Challa, which is, and like he's like so ruthless to the point where it's like he turned on Ulysses Claw after freeing him because he wanted to go back into Wakanda. Ulysses Claw didn't realize who he was, and to the point where like he tried to take Eric's girlfriend hostage, but like he didn't even care. He just shot the girlfriend just so Ulysses Claw would lose his leverage, and then he revealed a tattoo under his lips, the Wakandan tattoo, to show that he was of the bloodline before killing him dead and offering his body as a means of trying to get in some of the people's good graces. Like he's won over Okoye, who was not Okoye. Okoye was played by Dana Guerrera, who is the head of the Dora Milaje. He was like an all-female special forces and T'Challa's bodyguard. And you had like it was W'Kabi, who was played by Daniel Kaluuya. I'm sorry if I'm butchering all these names. Who is the head of security for the Border Tribe, but because he was dissatisfied with past Wakanda rulers, that he actually ended up siding with Killmonger because he thought it was wrong. Because he was pissed about feeling like about all the oppression going on in the world, and feel like Wakanda should be like a world should use their technology to come to other people's aid. And even like Michael B. Jordan pointed it out, where there was kind of Professor X Magneto dynamic going on between the two cousins, T'Challa and Eric. But and kind of like and just like Magneto, there was like a degree of hypocrisy, but behind his motivation, where he talked about wanting to help his fellow people, wanting to help other black people, but he had no problem like ordering around and being abusive to fellow black people to basically any of the Wakandans, and just like basically just kind of just bossing them around, not afraid to hit or choke a woman, and like all that's and just totally just abusing his power to the point where he even wanted to burn. After getting the abilities of the Black Panther, just burn all of the heart shaped herb so nobody else would take his power, and even Everett Ross, who Martin Freeman's character pointed out that he's a Black Ops CIA soldier. This is how he's been trained to know how to destabilize countries to the point where it's like you kind of wonder how much of it is he doing this for being like an extremist, kind of like they're trying to be like a Malcolm X figure, or how much of this is trying to from the fact that he's felt like a victim his whole life, and he just wants to be in a position of power. He just and has this like lust for power, just wanting to just spread misery on to anybody who's oppressed him or has like, robbed him, and who felt like he's robbed him of any kind of like happiness or whatnot. And that's just something that I feel like what made him one of the more like the best villains since Loki. The combination of his characterization and Michael B. Jordan's performance. And the thing, and I think it was also he helped. His actions really helped kind of drive the story because it was kind of a wake up call for T'Challa, who was like on board with the traditions of they need to keep they can't share any of their advanced technology, and they wanted to keep up this like sure facade of being like a third world country that had almost nothing. But even that was a wake up call when he learned the truth about what his dad did to his uncle and how he abandoned Eric, and basically he doesn't even blame him for why he became like the monster he became, and just realized that what they were doing was wrong. What they were doing was wrong, and even when he went to the whole kind of spirit world, which is like some tradition where they take the liquefied herb and they get buried alive and go cross over to the other side. He basically told his dad like he was wrong for what he did, and it's like I can't follow his traditions based on past rulers. Like he was a monster. He was like Killmonger was like a monster of their making. So which is what, and it even comes to the point where it's like not only like, and the thing is he doesn't also Killmonger offer up Ulysses Claw as corpse as a way of trying to like get trying to say like I have a right to rule this place. I was able to capture this guy who's evaded us for 20 something years, or kill this guy that evaded us for 20 something years, but also he did beat it beat T'Challa in combat and threw him over the edge of the waterfall. But of course, we knew, like from the fact that everybody knows he's going to be in an Infinity War, that he was going to survive. But it wasn't like everybody. But everybody was people were divided. You had you had Okoye and Wakabi, who was like, oh, where he one who would like agree with his viewpoints, and Okuya, who is like, he's our king. He won the trial by combat. I have to be loyal to the throne. Where you have like other characters like Ramonda, T'Challa's mother, played by Angela Bassett, and then Shuri, T'Challa's younger sister, played by Letitia Wright, and then you also have Nakia, played by Lupita Nyong'o, who is a Wakandan spy, and also T'Challa's ex. Deciding it's like, no, we're loyal to our king. We're loyal to him. Like, he's the rightful heir. He has the characteristics to be a king. He's just and Killmonger's a power hungry sociopath. And the fact that he's going to sell, and they're saying the fact that he's going to sell provide all these weapons to all these other spies and revolutionaries, and as a way of trying to help help Wakanda become a world power is just going to lead to war and needless death, and even and even including to the destruction of Wakanda itself. And he says like, I don't. It's like I don't. He says like he doesn't care, which shows like a sign of hypocrisy, saying that he just wants he's just lashing out at the world at this point. Um, at least to like a pretty, but eventually like people like Akuye come around, and at least there's like really cool battle between the different tribes, and even yeah, Mabaku's tribe. She's known as Man Ape in the comic books, and he was kind of a villain, but it kind of had a lot of racial implications, so they didn't really use it. And the thing that was odd is that they didn't really explore like why like his tribe was living up in the mountains and wasn't considered like alienated from the rest of Wakandan society. And I don't know, I just kind of felt like we could have seen. I mean, I liked. I mean, I felt like I was disappointed how they like they kill off like so many villains. I feel like Marvel puts too many of their eggs in one basket with as puts too much on like it just feels like Marvel just focuses on the fact that oh we have Loki as our villain, so as our multifaceted villain, so we don't have to keep anybody else around, and we also have Thanos coming up for Infinity War. So I feel like they're focusing too much on these two villains, where it's like there's such a dearth of like interesting villains outside of those guys, like Killmonger, Ultron to some extent. I mean, I know his motivations were kind of murky, but I still think he was a little bit underrated, in my personal opinion. They can't just keep like disposing of them in my and I mean that's the disappointing thing about I mean I like Ulysses Claw. I mean he played like a great kind of Andy Serkis great like Hammy villain, but kind of like Last Jedi. Spoiler alert. Kind of killed. He's also played a villain that felt like was killed off a little prematurely, and even though they had a and I like like the whole fight scene. Like you kind of like you felt like you kind of like it was easy for me obviously to empathize with Killmonger if I didn't agree with his methods. And it was cool. They had this whole fight scene on like on the this like advanced like monorail within with like underneath I guess like Shuri's lab and T'Challa. And but it was kind of but I feel like the special effects were a little off, like the body, like the CGI for T'Challa and Eric and Killmonger were like looked like kind of like rubbery, like kind of like when Keanu Reeves was fighting all the Agent Smiths in the Matrix Reloaded, and and that whole army, and it was just weird that it's like up until this point everything we knew about vibranium was like the most like powerful substance on Earth, and all of a sudden they had this like energy field in the monorail where it's like, oh, we can't transfer you can't transfer it at this speed, so you use it to like deactivate the vibranium or just cause it to disrupt it in their suits or something like that. Like it's almost like it acted like some kind of like chemical substance or something. So it felt like a bit of a plot convenience, but it lead to a scene where after Eric was stabbed, and like I said, it showed how far T'Challa is kind of where he's like he's still a person who wants to be merciful with his enemies, but Eric says, I know so I can just be locked up for the rest of my life. I'd rather be like the slaves who drown themselves and die a free man than live in bondage, which is why he took the spear out and just bled out, even though he still got to see the horizon, like a sunset and the horizon of Wakanda as a whole, because because he felt T'Challa felt that his cousin was owed that because he was just some kid from, like you say, he was just a kid from Brooklyn who had like fantasies about this like advanced civilization and wanting to see it, and he was being told it was like the most beautiful thing his dad has ever seen. So it was nice they had that little bit of camaraderie before he died. But again, but again, it's like it shows that he went from his character arc of just being vengeful and trying to avenge his father's death to being kind of this wise, being kind of a wise leader, and he continues to be growing to be a wise leader, T'Challa, and realizing that he can't, you know, like he said, like he's learned something that I guess Killmonger failed to learn, which is not like hold on to vengeance, and that was his arc in not letting vengeance consume him. That was his arc in Civil War. His his arc here was just learning from the mistakes of past rulers and trying to be better, and realizing that is he has an obligation to help out his people, whether to reach out to just any to basically black people, like anybody who's down to the downtrodden, and he has to learn that a why it says something in a quote which I wish I could remember, something like a wise man builds bridges, a foolish man builds barriers, and how he has to, like we all come with different. The whole message of how we all come with different walks of life, and that I guess it's just better to kind of like work together, and it's just for the work together and come together, and deciding that he has to create like an outreach program in the stateside, which his sister's going to help run, and also just talking to the United Nations, finally deciding that he's going to cut the BS and just tell everyone like what kind of country Wakanda really is, and help share his technology, which I feel like is going to have an impact on. I mean, considering considering Infinity War is coming up, like I figured it's like the world's going to need all the defenses and help it can get, and it was cool how at the end of how the end credit scene was a cameo from Bucky Barnes out of cryogenic stasis, and Shuri, who like when like Martin Freeman came in saying, "Oh, look, another broken whiteboard for me to fix." I guess it was kind of like a funny foreshadowing as to, although still missing an arm, that he was nicknamed White Wolf by the Wakandans of the Children of the Tribe, and how apparently he seems to be kind of being looked after by Shuri and freed of his Hydra brainwashing. And it just kind of like it had like a pretty powerful message. And I felt like it had like some really strong characters, especially some really strong female characters, and it wasn't like it was just being heavy-handed with with like the feminism stuff. It just showed it was just kind of more of a show don't tell, of saying that the woman can stand on equal grounds with the men, especially with having the whole female special forces. So despite of a few gripes here and there, I really like this movie. I really enjoyed it. I felt it very fulfilling, pretty powerful movie, especially in the back half. And I think it's definitely going to be in my top 10 for the year, and I look forward to seeing some of these characters back in Infinity War. But what do you guys think of the movie? Do you think it lived up to the hype? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.